I don't think being globally irrelevant is the worst thing. And I don't think it's mean to submit the Blue Jackets as such a team. Bill Simmons was doing a mailbag thing, and he was taking submissions for the most irrelevant team in sports. And the conversation ended up landing on the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the story ended up being Bill Simmons names Columbus Blue Jackets most irrelevant team in sports, and the Blue Jackets clapped back, and there was a whole discussion off of it. And I don't know if we're going to discuss the discussion, but here's what I want to say. A Blue Jackets fan called in and submitted his team as being the most irrelevant in sports. Bill Simmons looked into it, came back, and was like, yeah, I think you got a case here. And he showed his work horribly. I'll say that in defense of anyone who's mad at Bill Simmons. But
yes and no. Yes and no on that.
Go ahead.
I think that he got some things wrong. He injected too much of a personal bias at certain points that weakened the argument. But the pillars that he laid out, I think, were important in kind of establishing the basis of the conversation. And I wish he didn't say it. I wish it didn't come up, but I also don't think that he was totally wrong either.
We'll talk about it after. I'm not going to say I wish he didn't say it, and I'm not going to say that I wish it didn't come up. Should we just play? Do we have
we should
audio
definitely
of
hit
it,
it before
Sean?
we get deeper.
Yeah, give it to me.
Years too. Columbus's case is incredible. So they come in the league in 2000. They haven't made round 2 of the playoffs ever.
Wrong.
They haven't made the playoffs since 2020. They've missed the playoffs 20 of 25 times. The best Blue Jacket ever is Rick Nash. They've had 7 team captains.
Who gives a fuck?
Lyle Odeline, Ray Whitney, Luke Richardson, Adam Foote, Rick Nash, Nick Foligno, and Boone Jenner. I've never heard a single conversation about the Blue Jackets. Now, granted, I don't have a ton of hockey fans in my life, but I have never heard a single convo about them.
Skill issue.
I'm not sure who their rival is. I looked this up on Google, and Google said their rival, the Google AI, whatever that thing is, called their biggest rival, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then I asked Google what the Pittsburgh Penguins' biggest rival was, and they suggested Philly, Washington, the Rangers, and the Devils. So Columbus's biggest rival isn't even one of that team's 4 biggest rivals. Their saddest moment was Johnny Gaudreau dying recently. That was really sad. Their weirdest moment was a backup goalie a few years ago died in an awful fireworks accident, which I didn't know about, but it's a terrible story. Their worst draft pick in 2006, they took Gilbert Brule over Andrei Kopitar, who became probably the greatest player in the history of the Kings other than Gretzky. And apparently the Blue Jacket, I did a lot of research on this one. Apparently the Blue Jacket fans still upset about that pick. Most exciting controversy was they hired Mike Babcock, who is already kind of not in disgrace, but controversial. And then they had to fire him before his first season because of some weird scandal where he asked players to share personal photos with them and then use the photos in some sort of something. And the players got upset about it and they just fired him. That was weird. And then their greatest win, they swept the 2019 Panthers in round 1.
Sure didn't. Lightning.
It was the only time they made it to round 2.
Same tax implications.
Yeah, that's true.
It has to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. I can't believe how boring all of that is. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's your answer.
Questionable results from the Google AI, I'll say.
Yep.
Don't listen to Google AI.
Yeah.
Google AI is like a bad version of AI.
So based off of the pillars,
finally a bad version of AI.
Exactly.
Based on the pillars that he kind of establishes for the basis of the conversation, like best player in franchise history, amount of playoff success, like the buzz generated and rivalries, there's a very, very good claim to the Columbus Blue Jackets being the quote unquote most irrelevant team in sports. And like, I don't think it needs to be said that we fucking love the Blue Jackets and we love the fan base, and like that fan base absolutely
Not
will
irrelevant in
die
Columbus,
for that
that's for damn
team.
sure, yeah.
But it's also a conversation that we had yesterday. Like the market share is probably important in terms of this conversation. if you're talking about like most irrelevant, like you take out like any Canadian teams, obviously, because they're obsessed with that. And then like in Columbus, that market's kind of dominated by Ohio State and like the Cleveland Browns. And it's just like a football town. But they also do love the Blue Jackets.
Okay. I am not mad that he submitted the Blue Jackets, or that a Blue Jackets fan, I should say, I'm sorry, submitted the Blue Jackets. He looked into it, had mixed results on looking into it, but ultimately came away saying, yeah, this is a really good submission, and ultimately the one that he presented as number one. But I don't think being globally irrelevant is the worst thing. And I don't think it's mean to submit the Blue Jackets as such a team. Like, they've got an amazing fan base, a group that, as you said, includes all three of us. But globally, they have not gone where they've wanted to go. Like, and the thing about being fans of sports is how amazing it's going to be when they do break through and force themselves onto that stage. Think of last season and that push towards the playoffs that they made. It was magical, but if you didn't know or care about the Columbus Blue Jackets, you probably didn't know about it. If they'd gotten into the playoffs, won a round, made a run, then whether you cared, knew whatever about the Blue Jackets or not, that was in your face. And it would be like the 2013 Red Sox, or the 2013 Red Sox, 2013 Bruins. Obviously, those teams have more cachet, where like there's a story of tragedy, and now they're on this stage. Another part, and
Wait,
or two more
move
things.
On to this,
Yeah,
can I correct you real quick? You said the Blue Jackets have not gone global or had a global breakthrough. It's factually incorrect because the Columbus Blue Jackets played in a global series game in Europe in 2010.
Definitely what we were talking about. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I will rescind every word that I just said there. Two other things. Their best player, politely and nicely and with no malice, came on a goofy hockey show and said that playing for the Blue Jackets is this amazing cheat code because he's this star and he's beloved and he can grocery shop in peace.
Yeah.
That's not a knock on the Blue Jackets. It's saying that they are not on that big global thing yet. And we're so excited for them to be. And like I said, it's going to feel amazing when it happens. The other thing, and this might be most important, I'm getting text messages this morning from basketball fans saying, tell me about the Columbus Blue Jackets. I got Portland Trailblazers doing big boss memes this morning. So like, is this such a bad thing that he showed his work poorly and he gave the Blue Jackets a lot of ammunition for them to be like, oh yeah, well, whatever. And now the Blue Jackets are in the game. And now we're talking about this friendly feud between the Blue Jackets and Bill Simmons. This is good for business. I don't think that Bill Simmons was mean in how he went about it. I think that Blue Jackets fans, of course, should be like, fuck that guy. But that's what being a fan is.
Yeah, and you could have said the same thing about the Florida Panthers like a handful of years ago. Everything would have applied. And they've made the Stanley Cup final 3 straight years. They're back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. We're talking about them as a potential dynasty. That fan base is showing out. Like, people are excited about them. Everybody knows the Panthers. They have one of the biggest stars in all of hockey in Matthew Tkachuk. And you can go down the list, even like Brad Marchand now. They have global appeal. And it just shows you how quick this entire conversation can change when the results are there. And I do think the Blue Jackets are on the right track. You've liked the roster for years at this point. I think that at some point soon, the Blue Jackets will pop and they will make this conversation age pretty poorly. But for right now, I think that Simmons is pretty within his right to give the thumbs up on the caller who said, yeah, my team is probably the most irrelevant in sports.
Yeah, and I don't want to, I said before the show, I was like, I don't want to just like ape the segment and be like, okay, well then now we're talking about who do we think is the most irrelevant team in sports. That's cool. And you could do that if you want. But like, I'll say years ago, it was probably like, it was during the Decade of Darkness. I was doing a TV segment and it was, everyone had to submit their lists of like, who is the worst team to be a fan of. And I think I had the Oilers like top 3 because I was like, this is a fucking cursed existence, man. Like, they have this amazing history and they're doing everything they can to regain it. And they these fans keep eating shit year after year. And that wasn't to say like, Oilers are going nowhere, blah, blah, blah. It was me biased being like, yo, this is not fun right now. Show to do today.
Yeah, I mean, and somebody said like the Buffalo Sabres are the most irrelevant. It's not true because they're relevant for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
and they're in a hockey market. Like they've got history. Their best player, Dominic Hasek, is one of like the best goaltenders to ever play the game. They check a lot of different boxes that would discredit them as the most irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that. I mean, they're definitely not the least relevant on this show. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And yeah, like they might be the most miserable team to root for.
Yeah.
But that's not irrelevant. Yeah. Like that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing.
In Bill Simmons' defense too, like if you're having this conversation in the context of North American sports, particularly as an American, the answer's got to be a hockey team. Like it's not going to be a team from a different sport just because of the gap in popularity of hockey and the other sports in the United States in particular.
But that's also part of the reason I didn't like I've never been a part of a Columbus Blue Jackets conversation.
Yeah, it's like,
well,
you're not.
You're a product of the company you keep.
Yeah, exactly. Which he also admitted.
He did acknowledge that, yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to What Chaos here on YouTube. You will get everything, daily episodes, player interviews, and so much more. It's all here on the What Chaos YouTube. Hit subscribe.